Hi there. I'm Cori Ellison, dramaturg of opera and enthusiastic friend of Berkshire Opera. And I'm here to talk about Falstaff, one of my favorite subjects. There's nothing like Falstaff, literally nothing. Among the operas of Verdi, it's preceded by over 24 gloomy, tragic operas. Falstaff, Verdi's last opera and only his second comedy, has no real precedent in Italian or any other kind of opera. It inherits no tradition and it doesn't really begin one. Verdi had wanted to write comic opera for some 40 years. He tried his hand at comedy once before Falstaff. His second opera, Un giorno di regno from 1840, was a comedy, but it was pretty much his biggest flop. So he was understandably gun shy about writing comedy after that and was typecast as a tragedian. As late as 1879, Rossini was quoted as saying that Verdi was incapable of writing comic opera. But if we pay close attention, we can see Verdi subtly honing his comic chops all along. There are glints of Black humor in his middle period operas, Rigoletto, Un ballo in maschera, and La forza del destino. But how did he get from there to Falstaff? Well, Verdi had decided to retire at age 58 after Aida in 1871. And why not? He was rich, famous, accomplished, sick of the theatrical rat race, and discouraged about the fact that singer-centric Italian opera was losing ground to the orchestrally driven music dramas of Wagner, his exact contemporary. It wasn't until 1884 that a plot led by his wife, his publisher Giulio Ricordi, and the young composer librettist Arrigo Boito managed to coax Verdi out of a 13-year retirement. They presented him with An Irresistible Temptation, a splendid libretto by Boito based on Othello by Shakespeare, Verdi's idol. The result was Otello of 1887, Verdi's greatest opera to date. Now, the 74-year-old composer could surely retire. But no, not according to Boito. He wrote, I would like to make that bronze colossus resound one more time. In 1889, Boito tempted Verdi with another Shakespearean libretto, pouring it on thick. He wrote, I don't think that writing a comedy should tire you out. The jokes and laughter of comedy exhilarate mind and body. There's only one way to finish better than with Otello, and that's to finish triumphantly with Falstaff. After having sounded all the shrieks and groans of the human heart, to finish with a mighty burst of laughter. That is to astonish the world. Boito had made Verdi an offer he couldn't refuse. Amen, so be it, Verdi replied. We'll write this Falstaff then. We won't think for the moment of obstacles or age or illness. What a joy. Boito's libretto for Falstaff was based on The Merry Wives of Windsor, possibly Shakespeare's messiest, least focused play. Boito bolstered the rickety play with excerpts from Henry IV, parts 1 and 2, and Henry V, as well as material of his own. He rearranged and both added to and streamlined Shakespeare, focusing the plot on Falstaff's two major comeuppances, the basket scene in Act 2 and the forest scene in Act 3. The result of this heavy tampering is one of the most uniquely Shakespearean of operas. If, with Otello, Verdi and Boito had equaled Shakespeare, with Falstaff, they surpassed him. Verdi worked on Falstaff from 1890 to 92. The premiere at La Scala on February 9th, 1893 was predictably a hot ticket and a success. But the startlingly original Falstaff baffled critics. They claim to hear in it traces of Scarlatti, Haydn, Mozart, Beethoven, Rossini, even Wagner. What they actually heard was none of those things. It was a new Verdi. The music isn't difficult, claimed Verdi, but it must be sung differently from modern comic operas and the old opera buffe. I wouldn't want it sung like, for instance, Carmen or even Don Pasquale. It's a study all on its own. Boito added, it is very difficult, but it must appear very, very easy. Like Otello, Falstaff has no overture or prelude, plunges us immediately into the action. And from there, the whole opera is just pure propulsion. It's cast in real time as opposed to slowed down opera time until the final scene. It teems with musical ideas, with precious few repeats of music or text. In Falstaff, Verdi rejects predictable formulas, arias, caballettas, schematic ensembles. He crafted instead a seamless chain of dramatic moments, perfectly balanced between the declamatory and the lyrical, the vocal and the instrumental. In Falstaff, the orchestra figures more importantly than in any previous Verdi opera. It provides both a vast, vibrant backdrop and also a wealth of pictorial and dramatic detail. But deploying this busy orchestra with masterful economy, Verdi never lets it dominate the voices. It's as if he's saying, so there, Wagner. Falstaff is still an Italian opera through and through. Its prevailing speech-like vocal textures blossom now and again into tiny arioso, songs, monologues, and ensembles. And each character speaks his own special musical language. Falstaff's Act One monologue about honor is cast in overstuffed 14-syllable lines of verse. His comic sidekicks, Dame Quickly, Bardolfo, Pistola, and Dr. Caius are also drawn with Hirschfeld-like economy and precision. In Alice Ford, Verdi created a new kind of prima donna with no grand entrance or show-stopping aria, but nevertheless dominating the action. As Verdi put it, it's she who stirs the polenta. In Act 2, Scene 1, he gives her the shortest aria ever given to a diva, Gaia Comari di Windsor, in which the exaggerated romantic ninths and suspensions spoof 19th century romantic opera. Alice's husband, Ford, stands apart from the rest. He speaks the musical language of the operatic tragedy, which was for so long Verdi's home ground. Venting his anger and jealousy in his monologue in Act 2, Scene 1, he seems like the cousin of Otello. Ironically, the two youngest characters are the most old-fashioned, Nanetta and Fenton. Verdi's most poetic pair of young lovers sing extended lyrical lines. It's an old man's idealized memory of luminous young love. Their meetings are stolen moments, mini duets that provide idyllic refuge from the opera's madcap intrigues. Wrote Boito, I would like, as one sprinkles sugar on a tart, to sprinkle the whole comedy with that happy love without concentrating it at any one point. In Act 3, Verdi seems to be bidding a deliberate farewell to opera. After the relentless rush of events and musical ideas in the first two acts, this final scene is a nocturnal masque that slows down to a measured pace, beginning with two stylized set pieces, Fenton's short aria in strict sonnet form, and Nanetta's sublime, diaphanously scored strophic nocturne. This ethereal mood is abruptly shattered when Falstaff, awaiting a tryst, is tormented and terrified by all of Windsor. No spoilers here, but let's just say that all ends happily. as it must in a comedy. And please, don't fail to notice that the men are outwitted, the merry wives triumph. Thus, Verdi draws Falstaff and his operatic career to a brilliant and unique close. After gracing us with 28 mighty tragedies, the 80-year-old composer's last words to us are "Tutto nel mondo è bulla, l'uomo è nato bullone." Everything in the world is a joke. Man is born a jester. To seal his most forward-looking opera, he reaches back to the distant past, the Baroque era, bidding adieu with a dazzling fugue, virtually unheard of in opera. Its virtuosic interweaving of equal parts, the perfect way to illustrate reconciliation, equality, and the restoration of order, encrypts Verdi's valedictory message: tolerance, understanding, and a sense of humor. None of us, not even the great Verdi, can afford to take ourselves too seriously. Thank you. Enjoy Falstaff.